Again, welcome everybody to the Dynamics 365 update webcast for September. My name is Voorthuijsen. I'm PTS at Companion. You might already know me from the past webinars I did. And today with me we have Chris Parkers, being the Business Development Manager for Dynamics 365 CRM and Power Platform, as he will cover also some topics. First, I will do an update on the relevant news with regards to Business Central. And then I would like to hand it over to Chris Parkers, who is going to talk about Viva sales and some highlights or important things regarding the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform release notes in general, so not Business Central. So first, let's get started with the Business Central update. First things first, I would like to ask your attention for some important deadlines. I guess, of course, everyone is busy, but especially this month and next month, October, is a month with a lot of homework for the partners, for you to do. So I would like to highlight some things over there. Then some great stuff we saw at the BC Tech Days, and an announcement of the Release Wave 2 webinar for Business Central. And I would like to dive into one of the new features which comes with the release notes and with the new release, of course, which is the modern action bar, which could have a huge impact, not only on the partner side, but also not only on developers or consultants, but also, of course, for the end customers. But first things first, let's start with the homework. We have covered it already for a number of times, but I would like to call this a last reminder regarding the Web Service Access Key, or basic authentication for Business Central SaaS, with the removal deadline very soon, October 1st, nearly almost, you still have a week or so, then it will be removed. Announced 2 years ago already by Microsoft that it would be removed somewhere in the future. And initially the idea was to remove it with the Wave 1 release of this year. And they postponed the actual removal on existing tenants to October 1st. And October 1st is now just around the corner. And it's good to know, because there's a lot of confusion that people think that it has to do with the update towards Business Central version 21, so the new release. But actually it is not related to that update. It doesn't matter on which version you are. It simply will be removed October 1st. So it will stop working from then on. Of course, not all tenants on one day. The removal spans progressively across all regions and countries. And as you might already know, of course, currently the users in tenants where still Web Service Access Key is in use will get notifications, and those notifications will go away when there is no succeeded web service call in the past 24 or 48 hours. So a tip from our side is to remove all the Web Service Access Key information on all the user cards, and that starts a visit. Because if you remove those keys from the user cards, you don't have any keys anymore in your tenant, and then you will get no notification anymore, and because it will prevent any call to succeed with that user credential. The final depreciation and removal will first be applied by Microsoft to the production environments, and the idea is that after all the production environments across all regions are changed, so Web Service Access Key is completely removed, then they will have a look at the sandboxes. So yeah, like I said, just as a last reminder, 1st of October, Web Service Access Key will stop working. It doesn't matter on which version of Business Central SaaS you are, because we're talking about Business Central SaaS. So please move to OAuth 2.0 before October 1st. A few days more than a week, you have still to make some changes. There's lots of information available from Microsoft, also some very specific and concrete how-to tips by Arjan Kaufman. which can be found in the link included in this slide deck. So it will be shared with you afterwards. And maybe you saw, for example, the question on LinkedIn raised today by Arnjan, because we are all aware in the community that a lot of partners are struggling, also maybe even surprised, although it has been announced 2 years ago. So in the community, a lot of people are available and willing to help you out. And of course, we at Companion are also able to help you out with this. So if you need any help, please reach out. Then another one, also very important, is a deadline on October 31st. And that's to retain your delegated admin access to your customer tenants. And Microsoft introduced the granular delegated admin privileges last year. And that basically means you ask the customer to give you the minimum rights you need to manage their Business Central tenant with a time-bound access. It's a replacement for the delegated admin, but now it doesn't require global admin anymore. Just as a summary, we covered this also many times before, but just as a summary, you need to request it as a partner. It can be accepted and revoked by the customer, and it has to be renewed after the duration of the relationship has expired. And also more information is available, but please invest some time over here, because it will take some effort to change this for all your customers. So you have basically a little more than a month to change that. The recommended approach would be, in our eyes, to first, of course, do an audit on your customer portfolio and see where there are the old delegated admin privileges connections. Microsoft has also a tool for that available to check that easily. Remove those connections and then start planning your transition to GDAP. And then, of course, actually perform the change and then turn off the old connections. We have some helpful guides for this as well available in the link. Once again, as a summary explaining the benefits of the granular delegated admin privileges, but also very specific as a step-by-step guide how to obtain it as a partner, and also the information which can then be sent to your customer, how the customer should approve it, because they get a very standardized email to accept so that you get those rights. And yeah, we included a stepping guide for that as well. So please use the link on this slide for that. Then a deadline which is more than a year from now on, still 1 year to go, but many customers in the past, of course, have been placed on BC 14 because we thought it's an ideal stepping stone for those customers who need or would like to go to Business Central, but they were still relying on Seaside, heavily relying on the usage of the Windows client. Maybe they rely on current add-ons which are not available in AL yet, or you're just postponing a re-implementation because of financial reasons at the customer side, or whatever the reason might be. A lot of customers are placed on BC 14. And it's good to know that in a year from now, BC 14 is out of mainstream support. So now is the time to give all your customers on BC 14 some attention and make a plan, at least have a conversation with them about the support being ended in a year from now, and make sure that those customers are migrated on time. And of course, we are here to help you through this upgrade journey. So please reach out to your PCM in case you would need some help. You could, of course, just ask questions if you're in doubt or struggling with anything related to it, or you are interested in the services regarding upgrading those customers. Please reach out to your PCM. Then some other important hot topics, just as a reminder once again, also related to October, or at least this quarter. Of course, Universal Code Initiative, also covered multiple times already. Everything needs to be in customizations and cloud optimized code, because from now on the technical enforcements will start by Microsoft, because they announced that this will be implemented in the fourth quarter of this calendar year. And good to know that the non-universal code fees, the requirement to license the additional modules, will start January 1st next year. Then the MCCP, also covered a lot of times already by us, replacing the current competencies available through NPM, and that program starts October 1st as well. And once again, we have a lot of guides and blog posts around it, which you can easily find in the link, including in this slide. So as a summary, a lot of deadlines related to end of October. That's why I mentioned at the beginning that this is a very busy month with a lot of homework for you as a partner. And just as a last reminder, we thought it would be a good idea to at least give a summary of all those important topics with the deadlines just around the corner. That's it for the homework. Then I would like to share something we saw on the BC Tech Days. Microsoft also did a Fresh from the Lab series, where they show some beta stuff or experimental stuff they are thinking of to include it in BC. And of course, with the disclaimer, it might or might not be included in the product. We are not sure on what time, etc. But at least they share with us the ideas they have going forward. And at this picture, you see an overview of the list of sales orders. And if you have a good look at this not so good quality picture on the right side, you will see something like the pivot mode. The list view will change probably in Business Central, where you can then easily from within Business Central can do analysis views on that list. And trust me, this will save a lot of development hours and will make customers and consultants happy, because in short, fewer reports are needed, since a lot of the information people would like to see can then be done just by playing around with the list view, with this more or less designer mode on the list in Business Central. Like I said, fresh from the lab, it's experimental, disclaimer, but we thought it is a good idea to share that Microsoft is at least thinking about this, to maybe include this in a upcoming release, which will be very powerful. Then, of course, talking about the Wave 2 release of Business Central, they have some investment areas, and it's good to know that we are going to host a dedicated webinar on the functional and technical enhancement with this new release, a webinar fully dedicated to all the new features. It will be somewhere in October, and the announcement and opening of registration will follow very, very soon. But for now, I would like to dive into one of the investments areas, and that's the investment area navigation, when we're talking about the action bar improvements. We now have a new feature called Modern Action Bar, and you think it's a very small change, but it has huge impact for developers, consultants, and especially also end customers. What's the idea? Microsoft had a focus on optimization. The application team of Business Central has optimized 200 pages that account for 95% of the overall page usage based on the telemetry data they have. And they would like to have consistent action bar across all the different pages, remove redundancy. We now see nowadays that a lot of actions are twice or even 3 times available in the same bar, etc. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing. And they faced the dilemma whether to merge the entity, if you're on a customer on a customer card, or the entity order if you're on a sales or a purchase order, with the navigate action, because in the current action bar, you have the entity, customer and also navigate, and it's very confusing where to find specific actions. Is it in the entity menu or is it in the navigate menu? So they did a survey. Okay, should we merge it or should we keep it or whatever? And with all the enhancements they would like to do, they focused on the promoted area of the action bar only. So the left side, on the right side you have the more options, and I will show some pictures in a minute. They would like to focus on the left side, and the goal is to make promoted area the only part where the typical end user can find all their actions they need. What you should know first about the action bar update is there's a new way for developers to define the action bar menus, but the existing way still continues to work. So it's not required for the developers to immediately embrace the new modern action bar, but because the existing one still continues to work. On certain pages, Microsoft added additional menus, but all the existing menus are still available. And the additional actions to the menus in many pages help users discover frequently used actions. All existing action bar customizations people have done, just as personalization or maybe you as a partner for the profile configuration, remains respected. That's good to know. And in the more options part, the right side of the action bar, they also did some cleanup over there to remove duplicate actions, etc. So what does it look like? For example, keeping related actions together and avoiding the same action being available in multiple menus. For example, on the left side, you see in the new document, you have 5 options. On the right side, so the part which is normally hidden in the new document, and then other you see the same 5 menu items. And also you see a checkmark use short menu. That's for the relationship, all the logical features grouping together. Navigate has been gone. It's now been merged with the entity. So on a customer card, you don't find navigate and customer anymore. It's just customer, and all the logical actions you are searching for can be found under customer. Next to that, we have a split button, and a split button is mainly a combination of both a menu and the button. So in this example, you have a split button. If you click on dimensions multiple, you are really clicking on dimensions multiple. And if you click on the arrow, then you have the option to choose between dimensions multiple or dimension single. But the button itself will always show the first menu item of the list. There's also some more flexibility in customizing the menus, grouping actions, move them to another part, change the hierarchy. For example, within create interaction, you can make phone call the default one, and then you immediately see that the button, the split button, make a phone call also appears. So that changed as well. So basically complete the freedom to change the new modern action bar. And this is all the stuff that will be changed as standard by Microsoft. Next to that, we also have optional changes, which of course need to be turned on in the feature menu. So for example, process is renamed to home. And the idea of Microsoft is to better align it with the ribbon terminology used in the other Microsoft products. And under home, you find then the most common actions you do on a certain page. So for example, on a sales invoice, the posting, correcting, etc. Frequently used actions are combined in a split button if they are strongly connected by the effect they have. And for example, posting and release, correct and cancel, that's all very related to each other, so it will appear under the same split button. The third announcement is the action bar on document, cards, worksheets, and list pages, list plus pages, I should say, is now pinned by default for better discoverability and the one-click reach, of course. And the last small change, that on the subpage actions are now visible right away without requiring first to click on more options. So if we then compare BC20 with 21. The first one you see BC20 with process with both navigate still available, as well as order. In BC20 you see home, you see the split buttons, and you only find order and navigate has been gone. Why am I highlighting this small, between quotes of course, feature? It's because the impact. Developers need to dive into the new possibilities they have. And like I said, once again, as a reminder, the old way still continues to work. But if you're going to embrace the new features, developers need to dive into it. Consultants need to get familiar with all the changes and basically start over again with the journey to find all the specific actions, which can be a tough journey. Customers need to get familiar with it, of course. And what about all the training materials you as a partner have created? Or on the customer side, sometimes, of course, they create work instructions which need to be updated. For example, if they use print screens, you need to check if the extensions are compatible with the new feature. And of course, you can expect more support requests from your customers. So it's a small change with a huge impact. That's the reason why I would like to highlight this feature, so you can, so at least you are aware of it and can prepare for it. Make your support department ready for answering those questions, etc. More information specifically about this new feature can be found in the link. And that's the highlight I would like to share. And once again, somewhere within 2 weeks or so from now, we will do the complete coverage of the new release. For now, I would like to hand it over to Chris Parkers.
Thank you, William. And good afternoon, everybody. Really happy to be back on these calls today with William. I'm going to give you a quick update on Power Platform and Dataverse, some things that have become or will become mainstream. We're going to talk about a couple of things. One is Microsoft Viva sales. The other is Wave 2 2022. We'll cover a few brief but important highlights. I'm not going to go into deep depth of the whole Wave 2022 positioning. So hopefully you can all see the slides here. And first up is Microsoft Viva sales. The reason why I want to talk to you about this today is that it's scheduled for Q4 2022, so it's due out later this year. And this is something that I think can have a significant impact on driving user adoption, the ability to integrate kind of what is CRM or was CRM and the sales function into everyday kind of work. But it also stems, it kind of extends much further than that if you look at the Wave 2 2022 release. So it's always good to know how Microsoft build these things. So Microsoft say that Viva Sales, it's a seller experience that lets sellers use Office 365 and Microsoft Teams to automatically capture data into any CRM system, eliminating manual data entry, giving more time to focus on selling. It's an interesting focus here that Microsoft say this is for any CRM system. By any, they mean it works with Dynamics and it works with Salesforce, but we'll cover that later. So, you know, we first heard of this in just prior to Inspire, and it was June this year. And first and foremost, it's important to note that Microsoft Viva Sales is positioned on top of Microsoft Viva. Now, I know that sounds obvious, you know, of course, but many folks from Dynamics aren't yet aware of what Microsoft Viva is. It's a Microsoft 365 product, and it's a product around employee experience and employee engagement. This has been around since the start of 2021. If you are using Outlook as part of Office 365, then you're probably already using Microsoft Viva. If you get the daily briefing email that lands in your inbox, if you get the email that encourages you to prepare for meetings, to set focus time, highlights actions in emails that you've sent out, bringing the ability to mark those actions as done once they're complete. That's one part of Microsoft Viva. So if you think about Microsoft Viva Sales being an extension of this, and designed to bring everything from the CRM system into one place through automatic login, tracking, all that on one screen, client engagement, contact details, AI, guided actions, next best step, even sentiment analysis, then you're kind of getting towards what Microsoft Viva Sales will be. Before we go into the real detail of it, if you cast your mind back to July 2021, so going back kind of 14 months now, 15 months, and Microsoft Inspire there was a bold announcement that Satya Nadella made. He stated in his keynote speech that all Teams customers will receive access to Dynamics 365 data within Teams at no extra cost, regardless of whether or not they have a D365 license. This was really exciting. It created a real buzz in the Dynamics partner channel. If you take away that licensing tax, this could massively impact user adoption and drive real momentum in kind of sales pipeline for opportunities. So when we dug into that announcement and the details, all was not quite as may have been initially perceived. Talking to the teams at Microsoft, they Satya makes these big announcements, and then it's up to us to figure out how we implement them, was kind of the mindset. And initially, this was planned to be done via something known as collaborative apps. So specific apps provided by Microsoft that control the data that could be accessed, annotated, and updated by users within Teams. So it wasn't a blanket license for Teams users to access Dynamics 365 data. And they talked about scenarios, customer history, key contacts, customer service for sharing the case record, troubleshooting, and so on. And they also published a couple of screenshots, conceptual screenshots at the time about these collaborative apps. It was showing the data in Teams. It was talking about, bringing through notes behind the record and workflow enablement to share things like deal status. So we looked at what was in 2021 Wave 2 and 2022 Wave 1 releases. And these collaborative apps have never made it out of preview. They're still there. They're still listed on the technical documentation on the website. But it looks finally like this is coming out in the Wave 22, in the Wave 2 2022 release. And Microsoft appear to have branded this up as Microsoft Viva Sales, purely for the Dynamics 365 sales app. It relies heavily on the concept of @ mentions. So again, in an email, you're probably very familiar now with typing the @ symbol and then starting to type somebody's name. That brings them onto the to line. @ mentions is the way in which this data will be surfaced through to Dynamics, through to Teams and the various interfaces. So the positioning is around saving time on admin tasks from a seller perspective and reclaiming what gets lost. And if you think of this in the eyes of a typical salesperson, we all love to fill in data in CRM, right? And I think even here at Companion, as much as we love our internal implementation of Dynamics 365 sales, for sure, but there is an overhead that goes with it for the partner success managers, that data admin. And if you can cut out some of that data admin whilst bringing it contextually back into the tools that we all use on a daily basis, whether it be sellers or relationship folks from customer services or partner success, partner services, it can only be a good thing. And let's be honest, it's a big problem in the majority of CRM implementations out there, particularly with Dynamics, the need to constantly keep the data up to date. So Microsoft now talk about this in the context of Viva Sales initially, and it's based around 4 areas. That is capture, collaborate, engage, and customize. So capture, collaborate, engage, and customize. And when we look at the kind of the proof of concept, the public preview type things, the first one we can take a look at is around capture and tag to capture, where you can add customers to lists, manage relationships more easily than ever within Office applications. In this example, You can see the Outlook integration. It's driven through the Outlook web client here, and you can see a new contact is basically detected, marked as a customer, clearly there, and then all relatively expected kind of stuff here. But by using the menu opened in Excel, you can see there it's added to a My Customers list, and you can start to see some of the contextual information coming through. So you can see things like the last interaction field. There's some basic deal details, the sentiment analysis in there. And that's pulling through the information from Dynamics 365 sales directly into Excel, also Excel kind of online there, Excel Web Access as it would have been called. Just by driving it through the action pane, the pane on the right-hand side from Outlook. So that's around capturing information and getting information into CRM, creating a new contact or a new account, and also adding it that way. The next one up is collaborate, and collaborating across your organization. This is the @mention piece that I talked about how we can send customer details to co-workers in Microsoft Teams. So the example is really clear. You @mention somebody there. The contact card is brought through to the conversation window, just simply by using the capabilities there for that contact. This will also work for the account. But if you're going to have a conversation with somebody, currently you have to go into, if you want to share access to that record, you have to go into CRM, you have to go into the interface, find the record, share access. It shares the link. It doesn't share a preview like it does in this example here. So I think there's a real big benefit in this @mention capability being brought into the Office and the Microsoft 365 products to kind of provide better access to data that exists within CRM. So that's kind of my favorite one, but it's very simple. I think this is probably the one that has the most impact for me, and this is around engage. And this is Microsoft say this is about strengthening relationships with artificial intelligence. I think if you think about what artificial intelligence or AI is, and we've talked about those Microsoft Viva emails and the actions that it drives, what Microsoft is saying here is they're going to basically bring conversational intelligence to call summaries and call action items around things that go on within Teams. So in this example, you can see post-meeting summary notes and a transcript in Teams, basically then being scheduled for follow-up actions due next week that sync back as activities into Microsoft Teams and into all the places, the to-do lists that you'd expect them to be. So the action items here are AI driven, and these are suggested in a Microsoft Viva-like way. So very clearly here, schedule a follow-up for next week. All of those things there, the call highlights and the action items, they're not something that's a user has created. They're suggested by the Microsoft artificial intelligence to allow you to create kind of meeting summaries and progress on from that. So I think that's the one that would probably be the most impactful from a time-saving perspective. Finally, they talk about customize. And they talk about creating dashboards in the flow of work, and making sure you can download your customer list to see everything your way, and Microsoft will keep that up to date. So what they're saying here is that the data in the Excel example that we saw in the first kind of example here around capture, the data is actually kept live. So every time you open Excel, it will refresh with the last interaction, the latest if the estimated revenue changes, the sentiment, all those things, and also bring contextual information and potentially valuable related information, suggested items, connected co-workers into the Viva sales pane by the side of it. So those are the things that will be coming to the fore in Microsoft Viva. I think what's interesting is that when you note that we said Microsoft have made this work with Dynamics, but they've also made it work with Salesforce.com. And they say any CRM system. I guess to Microsoft, those are the two CRM systems in existence. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't work with HubSpot or any of the other web-enabled ones yet. I guess that's not to say that it can't. It's just that it's not been implemented. So there may be options there. But if you look at Slack and Salesforce.com, and when they joined forces, this kind of capability already exists in the other platform. So Microsoft are playing a little bit of catch up here, for sure. But it's good to see, and it's good to know that if you do use Salesforce.com, and you're already using Microsoft Office 365, there's this kind of surround strategy there for the Microsoft Office and the Microsoft 365 products. But also, if you are using the full Microsoft stack, and that's Microsoft Dynamics and Microsoft 365, Office 365, everything else that goes with it, the like-for-like capabilities are going to be there. So the next question that people kind of ask is, how much does it cost? And the honest answer is we don't know. And we probably won't know until we get closer to launch. We even don't know how it's going to be licensed. I've just popped this slide up just to say that, apologies, I do have an English version of this, but it's in Dutch. These are the things that are in Microsoft Viva now, and you can buy the Microsoft Viva suite, Viva Connections, Learning Insights, those sorts of things that are in there. We don't yet know if Microsoft Viva Sales is going to be licensed completely separately, if it's going to be a line on this part of the Viva suite. We do believe that the capabilities obviously are going to be included in the Dynamics 365 sales licenses. The product SKUs, if you buy any of the enterprise SKUs, the base, the attach methodology, that's going to be there. It also remains to be seen whether this is going to be in Power Platform. Accounts and contacts are entities in the common data service. Dataverse is now their core entities. We don't know if it's going to work with Power Platform, if there's going to be technical restrictions, licensing restrictions. All of these things are waiting to be seen. So, what Satya announced in July 2021, I think finally Microsoft have brought this to market, and they've brought this to market in a very smart way. And a way in which will actually hopefully have a positive impact on users of Dynamics 365 sales. So if you do use this internally in your own organizations as well, expect this to be rolled out and deployed before the start of next year, the app mention capabilities, because it's not just Microsoft Viva Sales that looks like it's going to have this app mention capability. And what I've seen through reading through the documents is that the focus areas for Wave 2 2022 in Dynamics applications, the 365 applications here, are all around Teams and Outlook collaboration, and working where you are, and app mentioning Dynamics data. So although that was branded up as Viva Sales, this is actually more of a theme through the whole Wave 2 2022 release notes. As is conversation intelligence. So transcriptions, recordings, sentiment analysis, keyword analysis, all of those things that are in there. The ability to work where you want to work, whether you're working in Outlook, whether you're working in Dynamics, app mentioning data, it comes through not just in sales, but also into customer service. So the ability to collaborate with swarming features, and how you can app mention and build a swarm around the cases in there. Teams can actually, and Teams users can see the card and the case and work with it directly within Microsoft Teams. It's not called Microsoft Viva Customer Service. So it's part of the Wave 2 2022 release, much more broadly. Also embedded Teams chats, where you do app mention accounts and contacts, they get linked back to the timeline in Dynamics we've seen. So that's one of the places there where there's also a focus area. I don't want to drill into all of these things. I think a few of the other highlights that I saw were in Dynamics 365 marketing, particularly some of the reporting, the dashboards, and again, we'll cover those in a moment with screenshots. The ability to handle multiple brands is coming to Dynamics 365 marketing through separate business units. Right now, it's a single brand application, but you're going to be able to do that through different business units. There's enhancements to moments-based marketing that will allow actions to be triggered off marketing journeys. Now, they can be based on real-time actions as well. So, imagine as a marketeer, you can set a follow-up. The moment somebody downloads a white paper, you can automate an email. So almost instantaneously based on interactions that are happening. AI churn models to help predict kind of risk of customer churn. That's going to be in there. There's a new lead capture form coming. Next best content for someone through the design phase of these kind of journeys and content ideas being pushed in there, and the ability to branch off custom tasks. I think one of the things there is, you can assign them then to individual sellers, not just a task. You can also trigger off a marketing journey. I think probably one of the key things here as well is frequency caps, because you don't want to over market to anybody. So if you're going to look at kind of the number of communications that you send to somebody within 24 hours, be that based on interactions or continuing the marketing journey, frequency caps are going to be available, so you can actually put a restriction on those kind of numbers. Just a little bit here on the kind of the screenshot. So the lead generation form is there, bottom right. The content ideas preview you can see in the bottom left, and the journey designer enhancements also there in the kind of the top screenshot. So that's kind of the marketing side. There's an enhancements in customer service. I've talked a lot there about Teams integration, but there's also agent experience and knowledge management, being able to surface that up through AI. So again, if you think about bringing it into Teams, is this the knowledge base article you are looking for, or something similar like that is kind of the expectation. Richer experience with the swarm creation and how you can create that and how you can manage the process. So there's lots of things in this wave release. I think. And the dashboards and reporting. So there's a new seller dashboard, there's a new marketing dashboard, there's a new customer service dashboard, there's a new deal-based dashboard. I think from an individual seller perspective there, left-hand side, you can see the My Day and the My Reflection and the amount of activities. So the ability to help a salesperson actually monitor themselves as well against the targets and their daily workload, their daily schedule. Vastly enhanced marketing dashboard, very Power BI looking there, and fantastic to kind of see that. And then in the sales hub, just kind of summary and consolidated information. So new dashboards and new things like that also coming in sales. Power Platform also has a focus. Power Pages and model driven apps in particular kind of have the focus here. Without going into all the detail, there's related records become editable in grids nowadays. So over and above just the quick view, you can nest grids and grouping with aggregation. You can, so within that's kind of like the model driven apps and that side of things. So those grid control enhancements are going to be there. Power Pages, which is the replacement for Power Portals, formerly Dynamics 365 Portals, ADX Studio. There's going to be new templates there for permit apps, employee onboarding experience, things like that. Power Automate is going to have sequential approvals, the dynamic content editor in there. There's quite a lot in this release actually. If you've got the time to read the document then or skim through it, at least I recommend that you do if this is important. I think for me, the biggest things when it comes to Power Apps, Power FX. New expression language, which is coming into model-driven app calculated columns. So if you don't know Power FX, Microsoft, this has been at least 18 months ago now, I think. It's the language that's used within Canvas apps, the formula language that's in there. It's very similar to Excel. And as a Power user, you should be able to get to grips with this if you're familiar with Excel. The business rules in kind of Power Platform can now or are going to be able to be written using Power FX rather than the old kind of designer. And also Power Virtual Agent conditions and logic are going to be able to use Power FX. So if you are from the consulting side and you do work with Dynamics 365, and this is probably the start of something here, that Power FX will become much more prevalent and more prevalent over time. So if you did want to educate yourself on something new, I think Power FX would be a great place to start right now if you don't already know that. Just finally, Dataverse, virtual tables. And this is really interesting to me because it says you can share Dataverse tables across environments. So that's accounts and contacts across environments that could be used by multiple model-driven apps. I've yet to see kind of how that's going to land in reality, but obviously if you've got multiple, one of the limitations with Business Central right now is the ability to only synchronize data using the out-of-the-box synchronization with one kind of Dynamics 365 environment installation. So if you've got multiple companies, there's no way to synchronize all of those. You'd need multiple different environments. But then if you can share Dataverse tables across environments, and this is why I'm saying I've no real way of understanding how this is going to be landed, potentially this brings a solution to that issue that's been in existence for a while. I will do more digging in that, and I will keep my eye on that as it kind of lands and see if that helps and if it's possible. The ability to connect to external data, SQL tables, Excel online, and actually make them behave like data tables. Bringing them through and using them natively as if they were in Dataverse is really kind of quite exciting. I talked about power effects for business rules, and then the grid controls and the enhancements. So the ability to edit in line, aggregate totals using power effects, subtotals. It feels like a very Power BI matrix-like experience that they're bringing in there, as well as Power BI quick reports and various other things around the kind of embedded team chat. So I hope that was a kind of a summary insight into some of the features that are in there. I hope Viva Sales helped understand what the app mention in Wave 2 2022 is going to bring about. And if you start thinking about that in customer service interactions and just general day-to-day work, I think there's something that all of us as salespeople can benefit. So that's the end of the session for me. I'd like to say thank you all for your time today. There's a question that says, will the slide be shared after the session? Absolutely, we will do that. But for now, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Have a great rest of the day, and we look forward to speaking to you all again soon.